On September 3rd, 1848, Congressman Abraham Lincoln wrote a letter to Pennsylvania politician Thaddeus Stevens to inquire about the upcoming presidential elections. 1848 was a presidential election year as well as a congressional election year, with Stevens himself running for a seat in the House. And this letter offers an insight into Lincoln's role as a party politician, as well as how his views on anti-slavery may have complicated that role. Just to give a little background, in 1846, David Wilmot, a congressman, had added a proviso to a rider for a Mexican-American War Appropriations Bill that stipulated that any territory the United States might gain as a result of the war with Mexico should be free territory. In other words, that slavery would not be allowed there. Now, this kicked off quite a controversy and will have a tremendous impact on the 1848 presidential election. Lincoln's anti-slavery views were certainly already coming together at this time, but I think in 1848, what we see is that perhaps those views don't necessarily or don't seem to trump his desire for a national Whig victory, a victory for the Whigs in the White House. The Whig Party that year nominated slaveholder and war hero Zachary Taylor to be their candidate, a move which caused many anti-slavery Whigs, known as conscience Whigs, to break from the party and form their own Free Soil Party with former President Martin Van Buren as their candidate. The Democrats that year nominated Lewis Cass, whose solution to the issue of slavery in the territories, popular sovereignty, meaning that the people in the territory should decide whether or not slavery would be allowed by popular vote, they would do so, had already, gathered followers. So later, actually, when Lincoln campaigns for Taylor, he will insist that the slave-owning Taylor is actually a closet free soiler, that he is the true free soil candidate, perhaps referring to a private promise that Taylor had made that he would not veto the Wilmot Proviso. But Lincoln had pushed for Taylor's nomination from the very beginning, telling a meeting of Illinois Whigs in Springfield in August of 1847 that Taylor would be preferable to Henry Clay. Now, Henry Clay is Lincoln's great hero, the man that he emulated throughout much of his political career. But he preferred Taylor to Clay simply because he believed Taylor could win. He told the Illinois Whigs at that meeting that the Whig party had fought so long for principles, it was time to change their motto to success. So he was convinced that Taylor was the only Whig candidate who could beat the Democrats, as well as bring in more seats for the Whigs in Congress. In another letter that Lincoln wrote to lawyer Jesse Lynch in April of 1848, Lincoln wrote that he didn't necessarily think Taylor would make a better president than Clay, but that he would make a better president than Polk or Buchanan or Cass or any of the other prominent Democrats. Lincoln attended the Whig National Nominating Convention in Philadelphia in 1848 in June, and it was there that he met Thaddeus Stevens, as well as many other prominent Whig politicians from around the country. Lincoln did a lot of networking and politicking at that convention, which he'll later take advantage of by writing letters and finding out from these new acquaintances their views on the election. And this is really what this letter to Thaddeus Stevens is about. If we look at the first couple of lines, he says, "You may possibly remember seeing me at the Philadelphia Convention, introduced to you as the lone Whig star of Illinois. Since the adjournment, I have remained here so long in the Whig document room." And he may be referring to there that he was in Washington at the time working on the Taylor campaign. He was helping with the publication of the Whig newspaper, The Battery. as well as overseeing thousands of campaign documents, the distribution of campaign documents in support of Taylor. He said, "I am now about to start for home, though in fact we know he did not travel home to Illinois. It was not long after that he began a roughly 11-day stump campaign for Taylor in Massachusetts," which raises the question, why was he campaigning in Massachusetts and not in his home state of Illinois? And the answer may be that the election in Massachusetts was close, was proving to be a close one, and it was going to be a pivotal one. Whereas in Illinois, the election for Taylor already seemed to be a lost cause. We know from a letter that Lincoln wrote to William Herndon in June of 1848 that while he believed many Whigs were falling in line behind Taylor around the country, that did not seem to be the case in Illinois. And he even goes so far as to ask Herndon, can something be done about this? He goes on to say to Stevens in the letter, "And I desire the undisguised opinion of some experienced and sagacious Pennsylvania politician as to how the vote of that state for governor and president is likely to go. In casting about for such a man, I have settled upon you, and I shall be much obliged if you will write to me." A little flattery never hurts. Lincoln was not afraid to use a little flattery. We know from subsequent letters that he often took sort of a gloved hand approach to his generals and other politicians with whom he worked. He understood that, like I said, a little flattery never hurts the situation. The news we are receiving here now by letters from all quarters is steadily on the rise. We have none lately of a discouraging character. This is the sum without giving the particulars. And so it's really pretty straightforward. He just wants to know what Stevens thinks is going on with the election. Will Pennsylvania win for Taylor? But there's a lot going on behind the scenes in this letter. So again, it shows us that he was truly a vigorous and active politician, both in front of and behind the scenes.